To carry the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. This legislation involves the Uniform Commercial Code. And for those of us who have suffered through law school and the benefits thereof, part of law school is spending time with select commercial statutes which contains the Uniform Commercial Code. I find it somewhat noteworthy that this is the copy of the Uniform Commercial Code that I had in law school when I started in 1984, which, as near as I can calculate, was before the senator seated to my left started serving in the legislature. A sign how ancient the book is. The Uniform Commercial Code was first drafted in 1951, and the first state to adopt the Uniform Commercial Code was Pennsylvania in 1953. Today, all 50 states have adopted the Uniform Commercial Code, largely in exactly the same form as we have adopted in Alaska. It's one of the most important parts of how all 50 states can be open and ready for business. And the Uniform Commercial Code is actually not government regulation. It's a set of structures that make it possible and effective for businesses to work with one another in an effective way. And part of the reason that the states uniformly adopt the commercial code is we want it so that if you're an Alaska business and you're doing business with another business from Washington, or a business in California, or a business from Pennsylvania or Arizona or anywhere else in the country, that the rules that tell how the businesses work with each other are uniform and consistent, so that you don't suddenly realize, oh my goodness, I'm in a transaction in another of the 50 states and they're under a whole different set of rules. That's why the Uniform Commercial Code is so important. The Uniform Commercial Code was developed by the Uniform Law Commission and the American Law Institute, and they make periodic amendments. Senate Bill 252 incorporates amendments recommended by the Uniform Law Commission and the American Law Institute in both 2018 and 2022. I would say we're a little behind schedule in adopting amendments. The 2022 amendments create a new chapter governing controllable electronic record, or CERs. Examples of CERs are virtual currencies, non-fungible tokens, and electronic promises to pay. The amendments provide rules to determine the rights of a person who receives a CER and for the perfection and priority of that security interest in a CER. The updated law will help stimulate economic activity by providing legal certainty to these increasingly common transactions. The 2022 amendment facilitate transactions using distributed ledger technology, but are drafted using technologically neutral language. This means that the amendments will accommodate technologies known today and remain relevant for future technological developments. Importantly, these amendments are not regulatory in nature. They provide a framework for private parties wishing to do business using new technologies, but they do not dictate the rules of commerce. The 2018 amendments seek to resolve a potential conflict governing secured transaction in which a partnership or an LLC is pledged as collateral. If interest in a business is used to secure a loan and default occurs, business partners could be forced into a business with a stranger in terms of who's managing the business. The 2018 amendments resolve this by separating an economic interest from the governance interest and ensuring that if somebody pledges interest in a business, the only thing they can pledge for security is the economic interest, not the governance interest. These UCC amendments reflect the efforts of the American Law Institute and the Uniform Law Commission in conjunction with approximately 350 knowledgeable advisors and stakeholder observers who met dozens of times over a 3-year period to reach consensus on updates to this crucial area of state law. And I would note a few years ago, the Uniform Law Commission actually met in Anchorage in the summer. And if you think we get involved in the weeds and the details in the legislature, going and listening to Uniform Law Commission discussions will reassure you that we are never near the depth of the weeds and the depth of the details, because in the Uniform Law Commission, they go through every word and every comma with painstaking detail. 16 other states have adopted the 2018 amendments, and 32 other states have adopted the 2022 amendments. It is critical that Alaska adopt these amendments to the Uniform Commercial Code to keep our statutes aligned with the best practices being used across the country. Adopting these amendments will promote commercial activity for emerging technologies and will provide a clear framework for our business community. It will help ensure that Alaska is open and ready for business. And with that, Mr. President, unless there are questions, I would encourage support for Senate Bill 252.
Thank you, Senator Clayman. I appreciate your explaining that you suffered through the UCC